Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into some really fascinating stuff. We're going to be exploring some pretty out there ideas today, all centered around the cerebrospinal system.
That's right, but we're not talking about your typical anatomy lesson here.
Definitely not. Think spirituality, ancient symbols, hidden meanings, that kind of thing. We're going deep.
Exactly. We're talking about the cerebrospinal system.
Okay, so one of the big ideas we keep seeing in this source is this whole concept of Christ oil. Have you ever heard of that before?
I have, yeah. It's not a medical term or anything. It's more like a symbolic way of describing a process that happens within the cerebrospinal system.
Okay, so like a spiritual thing.
Yeah, exactly. They describe it as a 3-day journey this fluid takes, and it involves all these key glands like the colostrum, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland. They even call them the sacred trinity within the skull.
Interesting. What's so special about these glands, according to the source?
Well, they say that the pineal gland, it kind of electrically charges this Christ oil, while the pituitary gland magnetically charges it.
Hold on. So are we talking about actual electrical currents here? Or is it more symbolic?
Yeah, you've got it. It's definitely more of a symbolic or energetic interpretation than a literal scientific one. It's not like they're hooking up electrodes to your brain or anything.
Got it. Got it. So it's more about the energy flow within the system.
Right. They're using these terms to describe a more subtle process, something that's happening on a different level.
Okay, so then what happens? This charged fluid, what does it do? It travels.
Exactly. It travels down the spine. They even compare the spine to the Jordan River.
Whoa, okay. And the sacrum, that bone at the bottom of the spine, that's like,
The Dead Sea. They actually say that. The sacrum is like the Dead Sea in this whole metaphor.
wow, they're really mapping this internal journey onto a whole geographical landscape. But why 3 days? What's the significance of that?
Well, they connected to the biblical story of Jesus, the Jordan River, Bethlehem, the Dead Sea, and then, of course, the 3 days of resurrection.
So they're implying that there's a parallel between this physical journey of the Christ oil in our bodies and this like spiritual journey.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold connection. But it seems like they're saying that this fluid, this Christ oil, it's somehow key to activating what they call God consciousness within us.
God consciousness. Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. But before we get too deep into that, what about this raising the oil thing? What do they say about that?
So they give some specific instructions on how to do it. They mention things like semen retention and an alkaline diet,
Yeah.
specifically no bread or meat allowed.
Interesting. So there's a physical component to it, but they also mention maintaining a high vibration. That sounds pretty esoteric.
Right, and that's where things get a little more, shall we say, open to interpretation.
For sure. So it's like a blend of physical practices and more spiritual or energetic concepts.
Exactly. And it's important to remember, we're just exploring these ideas, not necessarily endorsing them. It's always good to do your own research and see what resonates with you.
It's like our bodies are speaking a language we don't even understand. And you know what else the source is really into? Symbolism.
Oh yeah, they see it everywhere. Da Vinci, Masonic stuff. Even Santa Claus gets roped into this.
No way, Santa Claus. Okay, we got to hear about that. But first, what about the Last Supper? How do they connect that to all of this?
Okay, so they look at the Last Supper and they see astrology, basically.
Astrology, like zodiac signs and stuff.
Exactly. They say each disciple in the painting represents a specific zodiac sign and even a season. Like there's this whole cosmic order hidden within the artwork.
That's kind of cool, actually. So they're going beyond the surface level, finding deeper meaning in these symbols.
Exactly. They're all about those hidden layers. Like with the Masonic ladder. Remember Jacob's ladder?
Yeah, yeah, from the Bible.
Right. So they say that ladder, it's actually the spinal cord.
Yeah.
And the rock Jacob's leaning on, that's the sacrum, that bone at the base of the spine.
Okay, I think I see where they're going with this. So the spine is like this pathway, this ladder to spiritual enlightenment. And the Christ oil is traveling up it.
You got it. They're connecting it all back to that central idea.
This is pretty wild, honestly. But, okay, you can't leave us hanging on the Santa Claus thing. What's the deal with that?
All right, so this one's a bit out there. They connect Santa Claus to the colostrum. Remember that brain structure we talked about?
Yeah, the one that's part of the sacred trinity with the pineal gland and pituitary gland.
That's the one. So they point out that colostrum sounds a lot like Santa Claus, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But what does that even mean?
Well, they think it's more than just a coincidence. They say Santa coming down the chimney, it's symbolic of the Christ oil moving down the spine.
Okay, wow, that's jot creative. I've never heard that one before.
Yeah.
But honestly, who knows? Maybe there's something to it.
Maybe, maybe not. It's important to remember these are just their interpretations. You don't have to take their word for it.
Exactly. It's all about doing your own research,
Yeah.
coming to your own conclusions. What resonates with you might not resonate with someone else, and that's okay. Okay, buckle up, because this next part takes a bit of a turn. We're getting into cosmology, but not the kind you learned in school.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, this source is all about the flat Earth.
The flat Earth. Wow. Okay. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, you and me both. So
Uh-huh.
how do they even explain that? Like, what's their model look like?
Okay, so they describe the Earth as this flat plane, right? And the North Pole is at the center.
Okay, I'm picturing it. What about the sun and stars and all that?
They say there's this dome over the Earth, like a big ceiling called the firmament, and everything, the sun, moon, stars, it all rotates around the North Pole.
So pretty different from what we're used to hearing. Honestly, it's kind of hard to wrap my head around. Why do they think that way?
Well, it's not just them. This flat Earth idea, it's been around for centuries. Different cultures have believed it throughout history.
Huh, interesting. So they're tapping into some really old school beliefs, but they also talk about a globe scam. What's that all about?
Yeah, that's where they get a little more controversial. They basically say that the idea of a round Earth is a big lie, a way to control people by controlling information.
Right, right. And we have to say here, there's no scientific evidence to support that case.
Exactly. It's important to be critical of information, no matter where it comes from. Do your research, check your sources, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Question everything, right? Okay, so after that little detour into flat Earth territory, the source brings us back to the human body. They start talking about this human energy field, chakras, frequencies, all that good stuff. What's their take on that?
So they connect this energy field back to the cerebrospinal system, saying they're closely linked. They talk about the chakras, those 7 energy centers along the spine.
Right, right. I've heard of chakras.
So they see those chakras as being super important within this energy field. And remember how the Christ oil travels down the spine? They're basically saying that journey is connected to activating the chakras.
So it's like every step of the way, they're tying it back to that central idea. It's all connected.
Exactly. They even talk about music, how different frequencies can impact our energy and consciousness. Like, they specifically contrast 440 hertz with 432 hertz.
Huh, interesting. Anything else we should know about this energy field stuff? Like, can we strengthen it somehow?
They do give some suggestions. Meditation, grounding, connecting with nature, all that's pretty common advice for energetic well-being.
Makes sense. Anything else?
Oh, they also really push a plant-based diet, saying it raises your vibration.
Which, if you think about it, ties back to that whole alkaline diet thing they mentioned earlier. It's all connected.
Exactly. It's like they're presenting a whole system, a way of seeing the world and our place in it.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. We've covered so much ground today, from the anatomy of the cerebrospinal system to ancient symbolism, cosmology, even Santa Claus. It's mind-blowing stuff.
It really is. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is to keep an open mind, explore these ideas, and see what resonates with you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride, everyone. Until next time, keep asking questions and keep diving deep.